Pause and breathe and think about this for a moment. Have you ever tried to focus on your day, on your work, on your routine, but somehow one person keeps returning to your thoughts again and again, not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly present in the background of your mind? You don't even try to think about him, yet he appears in small moments when you wake up, when you're scrolling through your phone, when something reminds you of a conversation you once had. And the question slowly forms inside you, why him? And what does it mean if he's constantly on your mind? Today, let's explore this from a psychological perspective, not fantasy, not assumptions, but emotional patterns that often begin forming when someone occupies your thoughts more than usual. First, understand this: the human mind rarely repeats a person's image without a reason. Attraction, curiosity, unfinished conversations, emotional safety, any of these can create a loop inside the brain. And when your mind keeps returning to the same person, it usually means that somewhere in your interaction, something meaningful was activated. But here is where things become interesting. When one person starts thinking deeply about another, subtle shifts often begin on both sides, even if nothing is openly expressed. Maybe he becomes slightly more aware of your presence. Maybe conversations feel a little different. Maybe silence between you carries more meaning than before, not because thoughts are magical, but because humans respond to emotional energy in quiet ways. Think back to your last interaction with him. Did you notice longer pauses? Did eye contact feel more intentional? Did you feel like he was observing more than speaking? Sometimes, when someone enters your mental space repeatedly, it reflects a moment where both people sense something, even if neither of them fully understood it yet. And here's something many people don't talk about. Men often process emotional awareness differently, where you might feel waves of thoughts, reflections, an analysis. He might experience it as a simple shift in attention. He may not label it as emotion, he may not talk about it, but he might find himself noticing you more, remembering small details, replaying conversations without realizing why. This is not a rule, it's a possibility. Every person is different. But emotional awareness has a quiet way of showing itself. Sometimes when someone stays on your mind constantly, it's because your brain is trying to understand a connection that feels unfinished. Maybe you felt understood in a way that surprised you. Maybe there was comfort or mystery or a sense of calm that stood out from ordinary interactions. And the mind returns to whatever feels meaningful. Not everything we think about is love. Sometimes it's curiosity, sometimes it's emotional recognition. Now imagine this. While you're wondering why he's on your mind, he may be experiencing a different version of the same process. He might notice that your presence feels familiar. He might feel slightly more protective during conversations. He might hesitate before responding, not because he doesn't care, but because he's trying to understand his own reactions. Many men don't immediately express emotional shifts. Instead, they observe, they watch, they test the emotional distance quietly. Have you ever felt that moment where someone pulls back slightly, becomes quieter or more thoughtful? Often this isn't rejection, it's reflection. When someone begins to feel emotionally aware, they sometimes create space, just enough to understand what's happening inside them. And while you are thinking about him again and again, your own behavior might already be changing. Maybe you speak more carefully, maybe you notice his reactions more, maybe you feel a mixture of calm and nervousness when he's around. This is the mind trying to balance emotion with logic. But here's something important to remember. Thinking about someone constantly does not mean you've lost control. It simply means your brain has identified a person as emotionally significant. And significance doesn't always come from romance. Sometimes it comes from feeling seen, respected, or understood. When someone makes you feel emotionally safe, your mind naturally revisits that feeling because the brain is wired to return to experiences that create emotional comfort. Now let's go deeper. There's a quiet phase in many connections where neither person openly admits anything, but both begin noticing subtle changes. He might start watching your mood more carefully. He might remember small details you mentioned weeks ago. He might adjust his tone around you without realizing it. These are not dramatic signs. They're quiet psychological shifts, and often they happen long before anyone says anything directly. You might wonder, if he feels something too, why doesn't he just say it? Because emotional clarity takes time. People process feelings at different speeds. Some move quickly, expressing everything openly. Others move slowly, observing first, understanding later. And sometimes the most meaningful emotional changes happen silently, without labels, without announcements. Think about the last time you felt someone's presence change slightly. Did conversations feel deeper? Did silence feel less uncomfortable? Did you sense a quiet understanding even when nothing was said? These moments often signal that emotional awareness is growing, even if neither person fully understands it yet. But here is where balance becomes important. When someone stays on your mind all the time, it's easy to create stories in your head, imagining future conversations, interpreting every small action as a hidden message. And while imagination is natural, emotional health comes from staying grounded in reality instead of asking, does this mean he feels the same? Ask yourself, what does this connection teach me about my own emotions? Because the strongest relationships begin with self-awareness. Maybe thinking about him makes you realize what kind of conversations you value. Maybe it shows you that you appreciate emotional depth. Maybe it reminds you how important genuine attention feels. And sometimes the purpose of someone appearing constantly in your thoughts is not to pull you away from yourself, but to help you understand yourself more clearly. Now imagine this scenario. You're sitting quietly, doing something ordinary, and suddenly you remember something he said, a small comment, a simple joke, or a thoughtful question. Your mind lingers on it longer than expected. Why? Because emotional memory is stronger than logical memory. The brain holds on to moments that carry feeling. And when two people share emotionally meaningful interactions, both of their minds may revisit those moments just in different ways. He might not sit and analyze every detail the way you do, but he might notice that conversations with you feel different from conversations with others. That difference alone can create subtle shifts in his behavior, more patience, more attentiveness, or even quiet nervousness. Sometimes when someone stays on your mind constantly, it's because you sense potential, not necessarily a relationship, but a possibility of deeper understanding. And potential is powerful. It creates curiosity. It makes ordinary moments feel more significant. But here's a gentle reminder, your thoughts are your responsibility. No one else controls the stories your mind creates. So instead of chasing certainty, focus on observation. Watch how he responds over time. Notice consistency rather than single moments. Pay attention to how you feel after interacting with him, calm, respected, valued, or confused and drained, because true emotional connection always brings a sense of inner steadiness. Let's talk about something many people overlook. When someone begins thinking about another person frequently, their own emotional energy becomes more visible. You may start smiling more when his name appears on your phone. You may feel more aware of your words around him. And this shift in your behavior can influence how he perceives you, sometimes making him more attentive, sometimes making him more cautious. Human interaction is like a mirror. Each person reflects small changes back to the other. He might not understand why he suddenly notices your absence more than before. He might not know why conversations with you feel slightly more meaningful. But emotional awareness doesn't need immediate explanation. It simply exists, growing quietly in the background. Now take a breath and consider this. The fact that someone stays on your mind doesn't mean you should rush anything. In fact, the healthiest connections develop slowly, with space, respect, and natural timing. Allow yourself to experience the feeling without forcing a conclusion, because sometimes the most beautiful part of connection is the quiet phase, the moments before labels, before expectations, where curiosity and awareness slowly unfold. You might notice that he starts asking deeper questions, or maybe he listens more carefully when you speak, or maybe nothing obvious changes. Yet the atmosphere between you feels different. These small emotional adjustments are often more meaningful than dramatic gestures. And while you're wondering what he feels, remember that your own emotional clarity matters just as much. Are you thinking about him because he makes you feel peaceful? Because he challenges your perspective? Because he represents something new in your life? Understanding your own reasons helps you stay grounded instead of losing yourself in assumptions. Here's something powerful. When two people begin occupying each other's thoughts, even subtly, their interactions often become more intentional. Words carry more weight, silence feels more noticeable, and small gestures become more meaningful. But real emotional growth happens when both individuals remain connected to their own identity, not just to the idea of each other. So if a man is on your mind all the time, don't see it as a mystery you must solve immediately. See it as a signal, a moment of awareness, an invitation to understand both connection and yourself more deeply. Let things unfold naturally. Observe without pressure. Feel without losing balance. And remember, the strongest emotional bonds are never built through overthinking, but through steady, genuine presence. And maybe, just maybe, while you're wondering why he appears in your thoughts, he's quietly experiencing his own version of the same question. And now I want you to pause for a moment and reflect. If someone has been on your mind constantly, don't rush to define it, don't rush to chase it. Just observe what it teaches you about your own emotions, your own growth, and your own awareness. Real connections are never forced. They unfold slowly through understanding, respect, and emotional clarity. So take a deep breath, stay grounded, and allow life to reveal its answers naturally. If this video helped you see relationships and psychology from a deeper perspective, make sure you support the channel. Gently tap the like button so more people can discover content that encourages emotional awareness. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss upcoming videos about mindset, relationships and personal growth, and I'd really love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever experienced someone staying on your mind without knowing why? Share your perspective in the comments. Your story might help someone else feel understood. Thank you for being here. Take care of your energy, protect your peace, and I'll see you in the next video.